The Day Before was a widely anticipated open-world survival MMO set in a post-apocalyptic city, but after only being released on Steam for 4 days, the game was pulled and the developer behind it, Fntastic, permanently closed its doors, or so they say. But people were suspicious of this game's authenticity long before it released, primarily due to the developer, their poor track record. So, what the hell happened? Founded in 2015, Fntastic is a studio founded by brothers Eduard and Aysen Kotovtsev, who, according to their own mission statement, dreamed of creating a global organization that would work on world-class games. And with that dream, they started working on their first game, The Wild 8. A top-down survival game in which players would need to survive the cold climate of Alaska. It was a pretty run-of-the-mill game, having players gather resources, fight animals, craft items, and build bases to hold out in. The initial reception was actually pretty good, as evidenced by the overall positive early access reviews. However, after initial sales dried up and hype died down, the Wild 8's player count quickly spiraled into the low hundreds, even dipping into double-digit numbers on occasion. This led Fntastic to announce that they had sold the game to their publisher, Hype Train Digital, due to internal conflict with partners. However, it has long been discussed that this is most likely Fntastic trying to get one last payday for their game, rather than continuing to support and update it themselves. Nevertheless, Fntastic didn't waste much time before getting to work on their next project. Dead Dozen is, or well, was a first-person survival horror shooter in which players could team up with up to 3 other players in order to fight their way through a mysterious pyramid. This game released into early access just a year later than The Wild 8. However, unlike the previous title, Dead Dozen was essentially dead on arrival, getting mostly negative reviews and peaking at a whopping 73 concurrent players on launch day. And once again, just 3 months after Dead Dozen's release, Fntastic posted an update saying that they ran out of money and will be ceasing all support for the game. But of course, they kept the game up for sale until October 2021, just in case anyone was foolish enough to buy it. Then, a month after that, they released Radiant One, a mobile game that was about 20 to 30 minutes long. It received decent reviews and was even ported to Steam a little later. That brings us to December of 2021, during which Fntastic did a live stream event in which they showed off The Day Before for the first time. In it, they also surprise released a game called Prop Night, which was a blend between Dead by Daylight and Prop Hunt, which currently sits at a mixed rating and a less than stellar player count, hovering around 300-ish players, which isn't entirely dead, but it's not exactly thriving. First announced in January 2021, The Day Before was pitched as a grand-scale survival MMO, set in a post-apocalyptic open world with multiple cities, towns, forests, mountain ranges, all teeming with locations and buildings for players to explore and loot. The game world would be filled with zombies and players, both of which could pose a threat to you. There'd be survivor camps where you could team up and trade with other players. After this trailer came out, there was an insane wave of hype with a ton of people excited for the game, and the original announcement trailer from IGN sits at about 2.5 million views right now. Even I, one of the most pessimistic people I know, was looking forward to it because I really wanted to play an open world survival zombie game with top of the line graphics that was also realistic, or at least as realistic as a zombie apocalypse could be. The immense popularity led Gameology to make an episode of developers react on it, during which they said the following.
I'm getting a feeling this has all been rendered. This is not.
I think it's more of a vertical slice on first impression.
Yeah.
A vertical slice, if you don't know, is this doesn't mean that the whole game is done and it looks like this. This is probably a section that they popped out, and we're able to develop and carve out and make certain things look final when they're not. That's what happened with Watch Dogs. That's what happened with Cyberpunk for a lot of it. So I'm a little skeptical.
I would have to see more.
And when you look at some of the other trailers Fntastic released since then, they all fit under this umbrella of it being a locked off area, seeming more than a pre-rendered bit rather than actual gameplay. We then got a few more trailers and gameplay bits which all followed the same type of formula, before then getting the release date trailer, which again shows a whole bunch of pretty impressive locations, detailed interiors, and some of the crafting and building mechanics. But then we received the first bit of bad news for The Day Before, the first delay, from June 2022 to March of 2023, because they upgraded their engine from Unreal Engine 4 to 5. But hey, this would make the graphics look even better on release, right? Right? The Fntastic website also randomly went offline for a few weeks, but then mysteriously came back. They never even bothered to address it. Fntastic also announced they're looking for unpaid part-time volunteers in order to help with stuff like translation. Unpaid volunteers are a thing, but it's not a good thing for it to be done by an allegedly massive studio who are currently working on the #1 most wishlisted game on Steam. A few months later, to call the horde of scam and fake game allegations, they released a 10-minute video of raw and ancient gameplay. People instantly took note of the fact that the opening montage was an almost exact shot-for-shot recreation of Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War's Zombies trailer. But they said they just took inspiration. Like how the post-apocalyptic city in the winter was inspired by The Division, how this shot was inspired by the Resident Evil 2 remake, how this shot was inspired by SnowRunner, and how the logo is a literal one-to-one match of The Last of Us. It's one thing to take inspiration, and a completely different one to straight up lift entire sequences and shots from different games. But let's actually talk about this trailer. They showed a good variety of things players will be able to do in the day before, exploring both suburban neighborhoods and parts of the actual city, as well as looting some cabinets, customizing their weapons, drinking water to fill up a thirst meter, and most importantly, shooting zombies. Aside from all that, the graphics have taken a massive hit compared to the reveal trailer, and was noticeably lacking on a lot of depth and more intricate mechanics, feeling a lot more bare bones than initially promised. Things like other players or even hostile human NPCs were noticeably absent from the trailer. The open world also seemed to be extremely dead with no random events and the bare minimum of zombies. A bunch of vehicles in the trailer were also found to just be purchased assets from the Unreal Engine marketplace, which the devs just dropped right into the world, not even bothering to change the color or any of the text on them. Even some of the asset pack creators publicly acknowledged the fact that their assets were used in the trailers. Asset packs aren't inherently a bad thing, as a lot of smaller indie studios use them. It's why they exist in the first place. But when you start adding all of it up, it quickly becomes clear that Fntastic has not been working on its game for half a decade, as they've repeatedly stated up until this point. It is then that the game's Steam page completely disappeared due to a trademark dispute, which makes absolutely no sense. How would they not have the rights to a game that they've been advertising for over a year at this point? They also blamed the second delay on this dispute, before then telling IGN that they were already planning to delay the game again anyway, meaning that they lied in their own statements. 1 week later, the trademark dispute was resolved because they dropped the 10-minute gameplay trailer but didn't bring the Steam page back. In mid-February of 2023, we saw another devlog in which we got to see more footage, including some clips of the game to show how it had evolved through all of its stages. The game used to have a different style of graphics, and it looked to be a lot more of an actual game than anything else we've seen up until now. That's right, we have now seen 3 entirely different versions of this game and none of them feel or look real. And that brings us to current day, December 7th, 2023. The game actually releases on Steam, and it's a fucking shit show, because of course it is. The game is absolutely slammed on Steam, receiving an overwhelmingly negative rating in record time, sitting at a stellar 16% as of writing. IGN gives it a laughable 1 out of 10, which I'm fairly certain is the only time we will see this in the history of the world. About 46% of the 201,000 copies sold are refunded almost instantly, with sales drying up only a few days after its release due to the negative backlash. But it's not all bad. Fntastic now has the opportunity to do something incredible, and that is to work for many years on improving their game to its fullest potential. I mean, it's been done before. Just look at No Man's Sky. Oh, they closed the studio down. That's right, Fntastic shut its doors only 4 days after releasing the day before, putting up a final statement where they say that they don't have the funding to continue working on it any longer. However, that's not all. Fntastic, but more importantly the people behind this weird experience, didn't just close up shop. They started doing a whole lot more in an admittedly unsuccessful attempt to stem the tide, including but not limited to completely closing off their Discord server, completely emptying out their Fntastic website, completely removing any and all promotional material for the day before on their YouTube channel, deleting the Medium posts about looking for unpaid volunteers to work at Fntastic, even down to the CEOs deleting both of their personal Twitters, and their LinkedIn history. They even hastily changed the developer from Fntastic to 8 points on the Steam page of the Wild 8, resulting in it being review bombed into the ground as well. Jesus Christ, man, you can't make this shit up. The subreddit's icon was also changed into a literal fucking clown, and I found this thread where a guy literally posts a metric fuckton of Unreal Engine packs, all of them from the asset store. It's actually insane. Every single aspect of this game turned out to be some store-bought thingamajig that they hastily slapped together into their half-baked open world game. From buildings to quest systems to the third-person camera, even down to the smallest details like fog, the military sandbags, and the inventory UI. Some of these packs aren't even 3 months old before the game released, so they were out here speedrunning the scam. I was thinking of buying the game just for a meme, but what I told Fishy in DMs actually came to fruition. All refunds will be automatically accepted, regardless of how much playtime the user would have, so I suppose that is one positive aspect. Mytona, the publisher, has tweeted out that they're quote-unquote in talks with Fntastic about the future of the game. But with Fntastic closing its doors, I honestly can't see it going anywhere. Even if Mytona gets the rights and tries to hand it off to some other studio, I can't see anyone even wanting to touch this thing with a 10-foot pole. I mean, let's be completely honest here, no one is willingly going to put this thing on their resume. Another update now, it turns out that the Godovtsevs literally work at Mytona. They're the same fucking company! So yeah, I think this might have been the definitive worst game of the year. And we've had a lot of stinkers this year too, Gollum and Kong most notably. And so ends the story of the day before. Initially touted as a brand new era of survival games, but instead just fading away into obscurity without accomplishing much of anything. So that'll be all. Thanks for watching till the end of another one of my videos. I know this isn't really like any of my other content, but I was fully intending on actually playing the game and reviewing it. But I'll most likely never get the chance now, unless there's some cracked copy I can get my hands on. I also have a sore throat, which is why I sound like this. Anyway, if you did enjoy the video, leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to see more of my stuff, as I have 261 more videos to make between now and the inevitable heat of the universe. Follow me on Twitter and join me in the Discord. I've been Fntastic. Till next time.